democracy is a Trojan horse they use to prize you open and they use it as a divide and rule tool. The United States and the G7 partners, they are about dominance.
Yeah.
Total dominance. The whole idea of Zionism, the whole idea of white supremacy, it hasn't changed because it was constitutionalized. Remember, when you constitutionalize, it goes through bills and it's debated to say Elvis is not a human being, right? Elvis is a monkey. Dr. Malusi is not a human being, he's a monkey. Black people were seen to be monkeys. That's why today you see there's a war in Syria that's not ending. That's why there's a war that's not ending in Libya. The more you're divided, the more they can easily collect oil, the more they can easily do things. You understand? And also when there's wars like what's happening in the TRC and all, children, disappear. Human trafficking happens. Human trafficking happens for many reasons. When there's destabilizers, there's no records are kept and all that. There's organ trafficking. People are captured, they cut them up, they sell all this, and they find their way to the West. A whole lot of things happen when there's war. War, it's an art of economics. Good morning to all the viewers. Good morning in South Africa, in Africa, and good morning globally, whatever time it is where you are on the other part of the world. My name is Dr. Malusi Molf from University of Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm guest number 001. The date today is Tuesday, the 19th of March, 2024. By participating in this engagement today with Elvis Molefi, I hereby give consent to the platform to publish the conversation via relevant audio and video streaming platforms, and to utilize all the existing social media pages to share this conversation for the purposes of educating the greater society about the topics discussed between myself and the host today. Furthermore, to all viewers and listeners, it is very important for you to listen or to watch this conversation till the end to avoid missing information pieces, puzzles connecting to each other comprehensively to form the central objective of this conversation today. Through all the channels, this content will be distributed, and may this conversation reach both the ears of the experts and the non-experts in the subjects and topics being discussed today. Once again, welcome, and I'd like to say thank you very much. My name is Dr. Malusi Molf.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malusi Molf. The date is Tuesday, 19th of March, and thank you so much for choosing this podcast. The name of my podcast is Break It Down with Elvis Molefi Molf. In this podcast, I invite human beings who are passionate to engage and break down conversations under the following themes and topics. Number 1, religion, history, politics, and worldviews. Number 2, spirituality, self-mastery, and philosophy. Number 3, the life of arts and culture. And finally, number 4, money, technology, and biological science. To all the viewers and listeners listening or watching right now, I want to emphasize that it's very important for you to listen or watch this conversation till the end in order to avoid missing information and pieces and puzzles that connects to form the central objective of this conversation today. Through all the channels this content will be distributed, may this conversation reach both the ears of the expert and the non-expert in the subjects and topics being discussed today. Once again, thank you for choosing this podcast. My name is Elvis Molefi Molf. This is Break It Down, episode 1. Mr. Malusi Molf, or rather Dr. Malusi Molf, thank you so much for honoring the invite here. I had a lot of people that, I've been inviting on the podcast, and obviously I think I've delayed. Maybe the delay is on my side in terms of when are you going to do this? I probably have about maybe 50 people that I've spoken to, and they're still waiting on me. But you honored this invitation, and I think you honored this invitation also because we once had an engagement. I just want to highlight how we met. So we met at the African Union at 20 celebration, where African Union was celebrating 20 years after it started, and they were launching a book as well, which is a very nice book that actually takes you through, the history of the African Union, but also the works of the African Union and how far they are right now. That's just how we met, and then we had a little bit of engagement. It's on the YouTube channel, but today we are sitting for a formal sit down, which I believe that is going to be an educational, session. So our first discussion, I'd love for us to just talk about or focus on the theme or under law, wars, and justice. So our keywords obviously for this will be Russia, Europe, Ukraine, NATO, USA, Vladimir Putin, China, government, Israel, Palestine. We might also want to focus on some of the wars that are happening in the African continent. We might want to talk about the coups that are happening. West Africa. So some people have conspiracies that countries in West Africa have grouped themselves somehow to either facilitate this, military coups, or maybe there's an external, influence from the West or whoever. But you will take us through that. I just want you to first maybe introduce yourself. I know you've introduced yourself, but what exactly do you do in your profession right now as Dr. Malusi Ngube?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me. I really appreciate it. Basically, I'm a political economist scientist. That's what I do. So I look at global issues from a macro level, and I look at also continental level, and I look at quite seriously the power dynamics. Therefore, and all my analysis and all my research has to do with a historical basis and how it impacts today and the future vis-a-vis the power relations, especially taking into cognizance the history of the Africans. That's what I look at. The world has become globalized. It was always globalized, but it has become sharper. And the winners who have come from the 19th century up to now, the winners are the Anglo-Saxons, what we call today the British and the Americans, what they call, in other words, the G7. They control the world. How do they control the world, Malusi? For instance, they have got the highest military expenditure, the highest technologies, and their reserve currencies of the West are convertible and are much more powerful than any other currency. But the first amongst equals in those currencies is the US reserve dollar currency. What does it mean? It means when you have your exchange rates in Africa, across the world, buying petrol, everything is done through the medium, the intermediation of the reserve dollar currency. Anyone who does not play along, we know what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. We know what happened to Noriega of Panama. They put you in line. So
Patrice
that
Lumumba.
is Patrice Lumumba. So that is the extensive power the G7 have. The first, I would say, country that has seriously challenged the G7, or what I call the American Axis West influence, according to my analysis, is China at every facet of power. Remember, I'm talking about power relations. So we're talking economically, culturally, we're talking militarily, research and development. China has been able to match the United States of America or NATO in any other facet. So America feels very challenged, and now we are no more having a unipolar world. We are having a multipolar world. Hence, we have BRICS. Hence, we have slow de-dollarization. It's not going to be as fast because America is still very powerful. So any South African, any Malawian, any Tunisian, any Egyptian must know when we remain balkanized, we do not stand a chance. Lesotho on its own doesn't stand a chance. Military, economically, research and development with the United States, even with China, it doesn't. South Africa doesn't stand. South Africa's global participation in terms of its economy to the world global economy is 0.5%. That is a pittance. That is nothing. So the whole idea, I like what you said, this is about educating each other. The whole idea, and personally, I'm a Pan-Africanist. Patrice Lumumba saw this long back ago in the 50s, 60s. Africans have to unite. We have to unite economically, have one macroeconomic planning session. We have to unite our reserve banks, our politics, our cultures, unity in diversity. If we do not do that, we remain balkanized, none of us stands a chance at all. We've never stood a chance. We don't stand a chance right now. So this is serious business. That's what I'm about. So this is for all humanity, progressive humanity.
Yeah.
This is for all Africans, for everybody. The West, the G7, led by NATO and America, they are not about democracy. Democracy is a Trojan horse they use to prize you open, and they use it as a divide and rule tool. The United States and the G7 partners, they are about dominance.
Yeah.
Total dominance. So from the 19th century up to now, they've been dominating us. So it's not democracy. Democracy only applies when they want to prize you open and to dominate you. To give you an example, for instance, Saudi Arabia is not a democratic state. It's a kingdom. It's a monarchy. There's no democracy there. There's no elections. There's nothing. But for American petrodollar to become a petrodollar, it had to be underpinned and supported by the Saudi Arabia currency.
Yeah.
So, in other words, America played double standards.
Wow.
Yeah. You can remain a kingdom. We will protect you as long as all the oil, when it is bought all over the world, it is bought through the American dollar. That is the Saudi Arabian oil. But you being small here in South Africa, they will tell you you must go for elections, multi-party democracy and all that. I'm just saying. I'm saying there's other good parts of democracy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the primer is that it is used as a Trojan horse to destabilize us. Thank you.
Vladimir Putin just won the elections. He came victorious in the current elections in Russia. I want to go back to the wars in the world right now.
Right.
I would love to come back to Africa, just to bring it home.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, even with Israel and Palestine, there's a lot of committed murders that are taking place there. Murdering people, destroying infrastructure, and we've got a lot of institutions like the IEC, like the ICJ. What do you think is the power that they have? Like, to what extent do they have the power to actually, prosecute some of the world leaders and the countries that are involved in these activities, in these wars, especially after, the court has declared that, something maybe is a crime against humanity, is something that needs to be punished, but then, I doubt they have enough power to actually execute some of their prosecutions.
Okay.
What is your view on that?
Just to come in quickly, since you mentioned Putin, I want to say congratulations to him. And I want to draw the connection between Africa and Russia and China immediately, so that every African globally follows immediately that global issues, they are part of us. They impact us immediately. So Russia, that time when they were Soviet Union, never colonized Africa. Actually, Russia materially, they supported the liberation struggles with China all over Africa. So they've never exercised colonialism over Africa. That must be known. And number two, up to now, it is Russia that wanted even to provide nuclear power to South Africa and other areas in Africa. It's very important to note in mind that what is happening globally is not something new. I'll take you back in history. It's very important to note. First and foremost, we all know who are the indigenous natives of America.
Yeah.
Right. Remember I said they are about dominance. They were exterminated. It's not something new. What you're seeing in Gaza by the Zionists, by the supremacists, it's not something new. When the situation allows, they will exterminate you. So they've done it. Go check history. Everybody, you can check that history, how America was built. Now, how America was from, let's say, 4th century and what it looks like today, you would even refuse that the native Red Indians are the indigenous people because they don't even number 1 million. They don't. Let's look at another country. Let's look at Australia. The indigenous black people, the aborigines of Australia, those are the indigenous, but they were wiped off in millions. They are no more there. So this is not something maybe they do by accident. They do it by design. They were wiped off. New Zealand, the same thing. Canada, which is now predominantly Caucasian, right? Canada, it was also the native red Indians. They were wiped off, right? Let's go to Namibia. The Heroros, it was a tribe. It was wiped off. We can go to the Jews.
Yeah.
We can go to how many people have been wiped off in the DRC right now. More than 12 million from the 60s. So, and 2003, the war in Iraq. How many people were bombed? Because what they did first, they called it shock and awe. Before they engaged the soldiers, they bombed all civilian infrastructures, hospitals, water, sanitation, everything that had to do with civilian rule, they bombed. So you can imagine the ripple effects of that, what happened. Millions of people died. But because they control the power of the media, you do not get to see the evil that was committed. We can talk about Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the atom bombs that were thrown in Japan, not on the front line of the battles with the soldiers. No, these were conurbation areas like Johannesburg. In Nagasaki, I think almost 1 million people died. These are civilians, pregnant women, children in parks and all that.
And nobody knows about this.
Nobody,
because average people.
Because they control the power of the media. That's why they even want to control this TikTok. Because they don't want that information. They give you the information you're supposed to have. So what am I saying to Africa and Africans? Right? You already know they keep on speaking about depopulation.
Yeah.
Africa is prime to them. Many Africans might not believe it. Africa is prime to them. And they do want to get rid of Africans. Like America today is ruled by the Caucasians. Like Australia today is ruled by the Caucasians. It's not an accident. Like Canada today is ruled by the Caucasians.
Are you saying that they want to almost have a society where black people are subhuman? So, for instance, you look at dynamics in South Africa right now, right? And I'll make an example because this is where I've spent the rest of my life. So we've got dynamics that were caused by apartheid, obviously, where now we have this capitalist system that have white people at the top who are controlling the minerals, who are controlling the economy. Black people are still there, but they're almost like, laborers of the system and not necessarily contributors in terms of innovation and controlling the means of production. Are you saying worldwide, even within the African continent?
Elvis,
yes.
From the period of enlightenment in Europe, you must go through their literature, their philosophers, their classical philosophers, from Hegel, from Stuart Mills, from Aristotle, all of them. They designated the non-whites, specifically the black people, as the zone of the non-being. Zone of the non-being. You are not a being. You are a property to be commodified and used to accumulate profit and capital.
Wow.
You are not. That's why they could enslave us. That is their philosophy. So what am I saying? From their philosophy, they set the foundations, the philosophical and the cultural and the intellectual and the educational foundations to say if you are black, you are not human. Right? Then they came with constitutions wherever they went to colonize. You spoke of South Africa, right? If you look at the constitution of 1948 here, that's why there was separate development. That's why there was group areas, because you are not deemed to be human. Yeah. Go all over the Africa, look at their constitutions. And constitutions are not drawn by drunk people. They are drawn by learned men who are biased against the black body. And right up to now, for there to be a change in Africa and for them to do away with slavery is because we fought against that. Haiti is the first state in the world that freed itself from slavery by defeating the French, Napoleon Bonaparte and all that, right? So our ancestors had to fight and to die to liberate the whole of Africa, even though we haven't gotten the whole of liberation. So the whole idea of Zionism, the whole idea of white supremacy, it hasn't changed because it was constitutionalized. Remember, when you constitutionalize, it goes through bills and it's debated to say Elvis is not a human being, right? Elvis is a monkey. Dr. Malusi is not a human being, he's a monkey. Black people were seen to be monkeys. Right up to today, it hasn't. As far back as 2003, you heard with the previous president of America when he said, it's either you are with us or against us.
Wow.
Where was democracy then? And they went ahead and bombed women and children. They've done it in Afghanistan, right? So they even threatened North Korea when Donald Trump said, we have a much bigger gun than you. We will obliterate North Korea from the face of the earth. And Mugabe had to make a counter statement actually denigrating Donald Trump against that. He must be a man of peace and he must blow his trumpet triumphantly and all that. So what I'm saying there about power, if you look at the budget of America, military budget is the biggest in the world.
Yeah.
So why would they spend about between 700 billion to close to $1 trillion a year? Meaning that they can take on anybody. And the only one who's given them a serious challenge right now, it's Russia and China, because they've got nuclear weapons.
Oh, wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
So they do not. If you look at their economics, now I told you about history and up to now, if you study their economics and history, if you look at all the multinational corporations in Africa that control Africa, from the resources linking to from the regional value chains to the global value chains, they are all Western. So Africans do not own Africa. I'm not just talking South Africa. I'm talking about the whole of Africa. It's not owned by Africans. It's not. So I'm talking financially, I'm talking structurally, I'm talking culturally influence, I'm talking politically, I'm talking militarily. 2011, they hit Gaddafi for us. And we could not even bring together an army to go and fight them. That you cannot just come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand?
Kill ahead of state.
Yeah. So kill ahead of state.
And nothing happens.
Even up to now, African leaders are quiet about that.
Yeah.
But imagine if you had killed a European head of state. It would be big noise right up to now.
Of course.
Therefore, to all the Africans who are listening globally, we are totally emasculated. Totally. So this thing of saying, I'm South African, I'm Angolan, I'm Egyptian, it's all nonsense. The first person who seriously understood this, because we are educated and we are the intelligentsia, we must tell our communities the truth. It's Kwame Nkrumah. If you read Kwame Nkrumah's book, Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism, you will, written in 1965, you will understand the great danger that Africa is in. There's no African army that can wage a war against NATO. And that's why NATO was also created, so that it protects all the resources for the West. Not to be dictated to by the Africans, but for them to dominate and dictate to us. So they do that through their currency, through their economics, through their army, through their intelligence, and also culturally.
Wow.
So we are emasculated Africans. And to all the African leaders who are selling us out, who go and get a pittance and open investments in France, in America, and they think they've arrived, they are billionaires in Africa amidst joblessness, amidst poverty. We need leaders in Africa who are like Thomas Sankara, who sacrifice with the people. Right? We need leaders who are like Che Guevara, who sacrifice with the people, not leaders who just them and their families. Same thing is happening here in South Africa. We have billionaire leaders, multi-million leaders. They speak left, they speak revolution, but they walk right. That is nonsense. It has to stop. I am saying to Africa's youth and to the global youth, you are on your own. If you do not rise against your sellout leaders in Africa, you are done.
Yeah, that's too deep. That is really too deep. Before I jump to the next discussion theme, let's touch base on some of the wars that are happening in Africa. We've got a serious thing happening there in the DRC. Take us through that.
DRC, right from the Berlin Conference, when they decided to balkanize Africa, because
the Berlin Conference.
Yes, they already knew.
Yeah,
they already knew. They went deep. They knew the whole Africa and how to slice it.
Because before you even continue, the Berlin Conference, for an average person who perhaps maybe ended their history lessons maybe in high school, the Berlin Conference is not something that you can think of as something that was a conference that was aimed at Africa. But it's later when you actually jump into the history books that you understand that actually this was a meeting that somehow is the reason why we are where we are right now.
They even broke into technical commissions. When I mean technical commissions, they called in experts who are good at map reading, who are
Wow.
good at minerals and all that and all that. It's because they were fighting how to dominate the repositories of resources which are in Africa. The European countries themselves were fighting. They are also very tribalistic amongst themselves.
Yeah.
So what brought them together? What brought them together is the resources they could exploit. So they came up with this. Even America was there, but they were there as observers. America was there. Even the Japanese was there. They were there as observers. But the main pushers, because at that time, at the prime, it was the British Empire. The Germans called for it and all that. But that's where they discussed how they were going to slice the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
And slicing the whole of Africa, I'm talking about the resources. What are the resources? The minerals. But not only that, the resources are also us.
Human resources.
Human, right? How to extract labor from us to do the job without paying us anything. Even if they have to pay us anything, they pay us at a very minimal cost. What that does, it pushes up their profits. That's how the Western world was built. All these New Yorks, Berlin, you see, and all that, Manchester in England and all that, it was all built through black slavery and black colonialism and black neocolonialism. And let me say to the youngsters and to the youth of Africans all over the world, when you hear the word colonialism, there is nothing nice about it. It's a murdering enterprise. It's an enterprise of domination and murdering Africans. Go to the history of Africans, what happened to Africans from slavery to colonialism, even to the present neocolonialism. I gave you one example. All these coups you see in Africa, it's neocolonialism. At the end of the part of their strategy, it's integrated. If they cannot control you, they murder you through so many ways. So when you hear colonialism, you mustn't just think they just came and took over. They murdered thousands and millions of Africans, and they are intent on doing that.
Yeah. What do you see happening in DRC? How do you think this whole thing is going to end?
DRC is one of its landmass is very, very big, number one.
Because the war has been happening for
Yes,
years.
yes. It also took one of our martyrs, Patrice Lumumba, and it hasn't stopped right now. And many African leaders actually are implicated in the DRC. And I think between Paul Kagame, Museveni, of what you call, and Tshisekedi, who's the president of, they know exactly what is happening. But
What about the president of Kenya?
but I was still coming there, and
Okay.
the whole of the African Union,
Yeah.
they know exactly what's going on in the DRC.
Okay.
And personally, I will vouch my intelligent guess. It has to do with the colonizers, because multinational corporations have been implicated. The Teslas, the Apple, and all those companies for getting their minerals from there. They did not start yesterday, right now. But now it becomes too expensive. For instance, they can do it through satellite imaging. They can tell there's possibility of oil in that area, and there's possibility of this mineral in that area. And if there's people, there's a village of people staying there, maybe 100,000 people and all that. So instead of them investing money, doing feasibility studies and building and having to pay the people as well, it's expensive.
Wow.
What they do, they have all these militias, right? They create this, they conjure up wars. They create all these many, like in the DRC, there's over 120 militias. They create basically thugs. They are created by the CIA and all these people. They cause wars and people run away. What they call independent displaced person, internal refugee. So hundreds of people run away. So that's the whole idea, is to get them away from that, because that place has minerals. So it has cost them less. So they've moved hundreds of thousands of people, and they begin to mine. And sometimes they use the same people through force, raping people to mine it for nothing. So you can see again, it's slavery as it was. The cost of production, the unit of cost of production is very, very minimal. All these companies, Tesla, Apple, all these cell phones we have, all these gadgets, most of titanium, coltan comes from the DRC.
Yes.
Yes. And millions of people are being enslaved and people are dying because of the technology that we carry.
What do you?
And some of our leaders are implicated in that. Yes, absolutely.
Who do you think is funding the wars? Because I mean, a war. I mean, we've seen with Ukraine as well and Russia that Ukraine needed some more of a financial backup. You know, for them to participate or to continue participating in the war.
With Ukraine is public knowledge.
Yeah.
The West,
Yes.
being led by the Americans, they are sponsoring billions of dollars into that. They call it a proxy war. The
Sure.
whole idea was to break Russia. Russia is a nuclear power, but it was to break Russia as a state, a regime change of Putin. Because Russia is also made up of oligarchs. That's why oligarchs are very dangerous. Something they're trying to do in Africa.
What
or in
are
South Africa.
oligarchs?
Oligarchs are a group of families they make rich. For instance, here in
Oh.
South Africa, we have the Patrice Mutsepes, we have the Ramaphosas. You can see they are closely related. They make them
Oh.
billionaires. In other words, it's a way of killing the state. The state means the people, us, all of us. We
Yeah.
must pay. So they create oligarchs. This is what Russia had after the Soviet Union broke up. So why they attacked, I suspect some of the oligarchs who supported that destroy the Russian state. But Putin himself, actually, he's a patriot of a Russian state. So they managed to defeat that. Actually, they've actually made Russia even much stronger. It has even affected the American economy. American economy right now, its debt is close between 33 to 40 trillion dollars. America is in a recession, conventionally, economically speaking. It's a militarized economy, meaning what I mean by that, confidently so, that's my analysis, is that the American economy is militarized and is only benefiting the super rich Caucasian Americans, white Americans. The super elite, not just elite, super elite. The rest of the riffraff, according to me, they are not Americans and they don't care about them.
So who's funding the war in?
It's rich.
Yeah.
The so-called Americans, the real Americans, Washington, the super rich.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can think of some of the names, the super rich, whoever they are, some of them we will never know.
Yeah.
When I mean the super rich, their lifestyle never gets affected. Don't ever think it gets affected. They've got weaponry to protect their civilization, their way of life and everything. But ordinary Americans, you go to the States now, there's even a whole lot of Americans, white Americans, sleeping in the streets, jobless, living from paycheck to paycheck. They don't care about that.
Wow.
America is about the super rich.
What's your view on Burkina Faso and the recent coup?
I'm happy with the direction that they took. Burkina Faso, Niger, and then what you call and Mali. And actually, there's European sanctions against them.
Oh wow!
Those European sanctions that are supported by ECOWAS. So Burkina Faso, Niger, and
ECOWAS.
ECOWAS.
ECOWAS Bank.
Yeah, no, ECOWAS. ECOWAS stands for the Organization of West African Countries.
Yeah. There's a bank actually by ECOWAS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So they belong to the African Union.
Oh.
So actually, ECOWAS and the European Union, they've put sanctions against Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali.
Yeah.
So they made a statement. They've formed some type of federation. They've got an armistice where they come together as an army to defend themselves. And they said we're no more part of ECOWAS.
Wow.
Yes, we're no more part of ECOWAS. This is a revolutionary step. Credit to Thabo Mbeki. I was just listening to him the other day when he spoke of. He said what Traore and Burkina Faso and Niger did is very revolutionary, untangling themselves from the web of neocolonialism.
Like completely.
They're
radically so.
Yeah, they're radically. Yeah. And some of the African leaders are saying, no, what you did is wrong and all that. And I'm giving my personal opinion. The African countries who are doing that, what I keep on telling you is that we're having these sellout African leaders, and there are many reasons why they become sellout. Some of them, they're blackmailed because intelligence has collected all the way information of them, and they sell out. As long as they and their families and they're rich, you know what I mean? It's okay. Just like the situation we have in South Africa here, whereby we have our leaders, the people who are ruling us, they get their salaries on time, they get their pensions on time, even if they were ex-presidents, all of them from Begi, Zuma, Kgalema Motlale, they get their pension. but there's not enough money for NEFSAS for the South African black child. Where do you expect them to get the money from? Why can't education be free? Isn't it that's what we fought for?
Yeah.
So you can tell me your revolutionary language, but I'll look at where you are living,
Sure.
Mr. Ex-President.
Yes.
And that is me, my analysis.
That doesn't
I will
match.
look at where you are staying. If you are not like Thomas Sankara,
Yeah.
Thomas Sankara reduced his salary to be at the minimum like the ordinary worker. The way he dressed, the car he drove, he
Yeah.
changed, and he made a lot of enemies. He sold all government cars that were high profile, that were made. All money went into education and everything.
Oh, wow.
Right now, we have a situation whereby we have ministers who will tell you, right now, NEFSAS has just paid for children, just right now. Where do you expect the African child to get money from January, February, and all that when they are coming from
So from January until March, there was no payment.
There was no pay. Where do you expect them to get money from?
The only money that they got first time for this year.
And some of the students are being defunded. Defunded.
Is it because of, they say what, lack of budget?
Lack of money and all that. But how about defunding their salaries? All our ministers and our presidents. How about we defund their salaries?
Because they earn a lot, these guys.
No, what I'm saying, let them show leadership.
Yeah.
When Oliver Tambo went into exile, and when Mandela went to train in Algeria and all that, they were lawyers. They had a black practice, the first black practice in South Africa. But when they started going outside to fight for their beliefs, there was no salary there. There was no all these benefits. All I'm saying about African leaders, they want to speak revolutionary, but they live the life, Western life. No, but we have an African leader that showed us an example, Thomas Sankara. As a leader, you must lead by example.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Let's move to the next part of the discussion. Hopefully we cover everything. If you are still tuned in, thank you so much for pushing it up until this far. In this part of the discussion, we're going to be focusing on the May 29 elections in South Africa. And today in the morning, I wake up to the news that Jacob Zuma's bank account has been closed by FNB, I think. That, the president as well as the minister, I think is Pravin Gordhan, who also said that he's going to resign, later after these elections. They have ordered the banks to shut down former President Jacob Zuma's bank accounts. Is that true?
First and foremost, let's talk about the elections. It's good that we're having elections. And personally, my personal view, I'm hoping these elections will bring about a black majority party or black majority coalition of parties to really make revolutionary changes. Because there's not one single black majority party that has the strength to withstand and to defeat global racist white monopoly capital. Who owns South Africa and who own the whole of Africa. So it cannot be done by EFF alone, MK alone, ANC alone, AZAPO alone,
they
PSC
need to come
alone.
together.
They need to, whether by equality,
That's
we
a
need to
difficult
have
thing.
strategic alliances, tactical alliances to be able to do that. So what am I saying? It's good we have these elections because then we can cross this conundrum dispensation we've had from CODESA to now because we were played.
Yeah.
Basically, what happened through BEE and other shenanigans, they made a few black people rich and they created them as a buffer so that we do not have revolutionary change. So I want to warn that electoral elections by themselves, they are not revolutionary. They bring about a change of leadership, but they can be manipulated. Remember when I spoke about democracy? So it doesn't mean if any one party is going to win there, right? It doesn't mean things will suddenly change. Remember, I spoke about that we do not control the reserve currency of the world. The multinational corporations in South Africa and Africa are not ours, right? Capital is not ours, right? Skills, it's not endowed dominantly within the Africans. So there is no way, I would confidently say, there is no way EFF, MK, PSC, AZAPO, and ANC can pull it off together. So I quickly want to say to all the young Africans in South Africa and globally, you are on your own. Don't just rely on governments. Go across Africa, find opportunities, fight. You will have to fight even if it means to crawl on your stomach. Because if you're going to wait, even for a government that's going to come after this election, this is my saying, I'll stand for it. They do not have the capability to do it. They might want to do it, but it's not there. But the way to force it, for you, the youth, you must be seriously organized. And you must be as dedicated as Thomas Sankara. You must be as dedicated as Samora Machel. You must be as dedicated as Amilcar Cabral. You must be as dedicated as Chris Hani. If you are not, if you are wishy-washy, the politics that are going to come after that, they will reflect your state of politics, your state of lethargy, your state of apathy. So, if you look at all the revolutions in Africa and Latin America and elsewhere, already people like Che Guevara and Thomas Sankara, they were already in their 25s and they put their lives at risk to bring about change. But if you're going to be wishy-washy and, say whatever, it's fine. It's fine. Then you'll get what you deserve. You know what I mean? But if you're really serious, it's up to you to make the sacrifices. Freedom is never free. And I'm not just speaking. Freedom is never free. You must be able to pay the ultimate for freedom. Because you can already see, I can tell you now, I can forecast for you the economy of South Africa this year. If it ever is going to grow, my economics, my not following World Bank's, I also do my own analysis. It will grow maybe at about 1 point to 1.2%, meaning that it's only serving the rich. It will not serve the bulk of the people. So if you are a student and intelligentsia, from matric, you're already educated, you have common sense, you must organize. You must organize with the youth, with the churches, with the mosque. You must come together as youth and organize and put pressure on our governments. Not once in a while. You must put pressure all the time because they suppress you all the time. You must put pressure. There are many ways of putting pressure so that you have the changes that you want. Otherwise, you will sit with your degree, with your matric, I'm telling you, for 10 years and nothing will happen. But they who rule over us, they will have everything. They don't even know what load shedding is. They don't know. It's me and you who know it. They don't know. They've got generators. They've got everything. Same thing all over the world. So what I'm saying, oligarchs all over the world, they are forming a common ground against the masses of the world. I would call it global feudalism. The haves and the have-nots. And that is what is happening in South Africa. So youth, you better wake up. You really better wake up and be prepared to sacrifice.
Yeah, if you're a young person, also I think it's very important for you to seek opportunities outside of, like you were saying, you need to travel to, I know it's a lot of money, it's a lot of resources.
My friend, don't even say that. Don't even say that. I was outside the country.
Yeah.
We went to Zambia. I've been in Zambia. I've been in Tanzania.
But for other people, really, they don't have the funds to actually
No. This is what I'm talking about.
Country. Yes.
This is what I'm talking. When MK was formed and all that, when you study the liberation struggles of the whole of Africa,
yes,
right?
When
MK went outside the country, do you think they had bus fare and all that? When Zandla, Zipra, Amilcar Cabral, when they went to train and all that, do you think they had medical aid and money for food and all that? This is what I'm talking. When Mao Zedong finally liberated China, they had to travel on foot 10,000 miles, what they call the Great March. Read about it. I can give you so many instances. What I'm saying, if you truly want freedom and you don't want to be anybody's puppet or monkey, you sacrifice for it. Go and read the history how Cuba was liberated by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara.
No. I totally.
So the youth must stop speaking. If they still want to have a cell phone, but I don't have money for this, then you'll sit at the back room at home forever until you're 50. Then it's cool if that is your choice.
Yeah.
Yes. But if you want to be a man amongst men and be counted as a human being, then you will definitely have to sacrifice like Malcolm X sacrificed, like Nyerere sacrificed.
I would encourage people to check a gentleman by the name of Wode Maya. Wode Maya, travels around Africa. He recently went to the USA for the very first time, but before that, he had traveled almost every country in Africa. He said, I'm not going to go overseas before I actually tour the African continent and showcase parts of Africa that a lot of people don't know, because he lived in China for some time, and the ads, the TV commercials that he used to see were not a representation of what he knew was the reality back then in his home country, which is Ghana. So then it was really painful for him because the stuff that they were showing there, it was almost like this continent is a continent of non-evolving people, they just need help from the world.
They have to do that because they have to kill your confidence. They have to dominate
100%.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
Yes.
Yes, it's called neocolonialism, the cultural part of it.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't sacrifice to fight for it, nothing will happen.
So yeah, I do believe that it goes also to psychology, that they try to mess around with your psychological being. So he decided that, what, I'm gonna move from China, I'm gonna come back home, but then going back home, I'm gonna make it my point that I'm gonna tour the entire African continent. And ever since then, he's been doing that. I think he has 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's got over 1 million followers on the socials, and he continues to do that. Right now, he's been invited in a lot of African events, continental events that are taking place. And I think he's one of the people that actually encourages me to want to tour, the African continent. I want to go to a lot of countries. That's why I'm here to discuss some of the things that are happening in this country so that I can know the dynamics.
And to support you, to the youth of South Africa, please go to other African countries. I
Yes.
don't care how hard it is.
Yeah.
Have your own lived experience besides what you read. Because part of how you react is the information that has been put into your head by another man. Go and find for yourself. Just like the first people who went to space, went to the moon, nobody had gone there before. Certain spacecrafts, they blew up, they never got there. So if you're afraid of such things to pay the price, then you'll always be controlled. So I'm saying to the youth, create partnerships. There's a lot of Nigerians here, a lot of Zimbabweans here, a lot of Malawians here, a lot of people from Tanzania. Create partnerships. Find ways. I don't care whether you're going to go into the business of tomatoes, peanuts. You can be billionaire with any business. It's how you package it and how you fight for it and what type of passion. If you want to be a filmmaker, you can be the best filmmaker from here in South Africa, in the world. And even what you call will end up looking at you, Hollywood or whatever. It's up to you. You have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
But don't stay trapped in South Africa. Get out of South Africa. You can to and fro at all times. Get out and experience for yourself.
That's and it's very important what you are mentioning, because if you look at the map, we are in the south, right? We are in the south, and it makes sense for us to actually want to travel to other countries. And other countries within, the African continent, because if you are in the south, you are very far from, all the places that are in the north, that are in the east, that are in the west, and even with culture, because I would think of maybe Middle Africa or Central Africa, they do have some sense of, understanding of the culture in the east, the culture in the north, the culture in the south. But then us in the south, it's almost like we are far, far away from everything that is in Africa. And that's why we are easily brainwashed.
Elvis, let's even get rid of the word. I'll tell you what. I'll use an ironical example. The people who colonized us, Jan van Riebeck, the Dutch East India Company from the Netherlands, 1452 from that time.
Yeah.
Right. They did not know at first what Africa looked like. Look where they were from, right? And look at their long-range plan. Yeah. That's why they are Caucasian children now. They're very rich and they control Africa, right? Obviously, when they came, there was mosquitoes and some of them died and all that. So you cannot say because you are South African that it's too far.
Yeah.
But the Caucasian doesn't say it's too far. He makes sure the intelligence of America, of Britain and everything, they make sure they know Africa much better than you.
Yeah.
The topography, the trees, the flora, the fauna, the people, they make sure. That's what intelligence is all about. Information collection. When you are there in Soweto, when you are there in Rockville, in Free State, and you say, it's too far there. No. That is not the mentality of a revolutionary. Oliver Tambo had to get out of South Africa for 40 years to be outside the country to realize and to be able to amass experiences and skills for him to be able to unseat the South African apartheid government. So if when you are going to be sitting in Tladi or Komletsani in Soweto and say, that area is too far and all that. Okay, another ironical example.
Yeah.
Look at most of the guys who've come from Uganda, from Nigeria. Not all of them are drug dealers. Let's be fair. Not all of them.
Yeah.
They've come here and they've come here.
There are some, but
there's some. And
yeah.
the law must take its
Of
course.
course,
I mean, I don't
yeah.
care whether you're South African, Nigerian. If you break the law must take its course.
Yeah.
But let's talk of the good side because we're talking of
100%.
strength
Yeah.
and weaknesses.
Yeah.
There are people who've come from Burundi who are here, who've graduated, who've gotten their PhDs here, who came here as refugees
They're working.
from the DRC. They are working. Some of them, they're working for the Reserve Bank. Right? They came all the way here. Nothing, no papers. They fought. Some were sleeping in the streets. Some started sleeping in the churches. They went through all that. Some I even know. They are doctors at Baragwana hospitals. They are doctors at Johannesburg Hospital. They are doctors at Helen Zille Hospital. Even in Cape Town. I know them. But if they have to tell you their story, what they went through. So I'm saying this not to shoot down on my South African people, because we have heroes who've done it, like the Chris Anis, like the many others who've done it. But all I'm saying is, your generation must get out of the comfort zone.
Right.
Life is bad, life is painful, and life is unforgiving.
Yeah.
If you don't stand up, you will be dominated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malusi Ncube. Let's continue with the elections, because I see time is not really on our side. The elections, 29th of May, it has been declared. How do you see it, unfolding? And do you think organizations such as the IEC can be trusted? And also, we've got the recent issue where the DA is sending a letter to United States to ask them to come and oversee the elections, because they believe that the formation of the MK party will somehow have a negative impact in the elections. I don't know how, but what are your views with the elections generally and with other formations of other political parties?
Look,
such
it's
as
good
the
that the
MK
elections
party?
take place so far, because when you do an audit, whether it's financial audit or a business audit of some sort, whatever audit you do, you base it on what has happened before. You look at the CV. Even when I do an audit on you, since the IC started up to now, personally, I've got nothing to complain about them. I'm speaking for myself. Yeah, right. There might be rumors. People can say Elvis is like this, like this, like only when I investigate, there's nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just certain people who are jealous of you. So IEC, when I look at their record from 1994 right up to now, for me, they're in good stead. Yes, of course, we've had certain small pockets of discrepancies and all that. There is no elections in the world that is 100%. But overall, IC has marvelously managed free and fair elections. Yes, there might be perceptions which they can be corrupted. Of course, anyone can be corrupted. Probably I can be corrupted. You can be corrupted.
Yeah.
But it's up for me when the temptation comes and I'm being given a bag full of 50 million. Will I say yes or no? Some people will say no. They'd rather die. Right? So let's give IEC a chance. I do not see myself. I stand it to be corrected. Any information to say no, IEC is wrong because they did that. Because I definitely think most of the parties would have been up in arms. Number two, coming to the MK party, thus far that the MK party has registered, to me, using my common sense, they have registered, they have everything there, whatever. It means they have satisfied the IEC and the jurisdictional law within what they have done so far.
They've met all the criteria.
The criteria, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They've satisfied that.
Okay.
Yes, I understand ANC has taken them to court. But hey, like they say, it's still sub judice. The courts are still looking at it. We will see how they will pronounce it. But I'll also want to take an intelligent guess to say, I would love to think by the time MK form themselves and all that, I would like to think they also have legal brains, people they consult, right? It doesn't mean if you take me to court, right? when you take me to court, I will have my say as much as the plaintiff will say to me, no, Malusi, you did this, you killed this person and all that. But I'll also try to show that I was framed. I did not kill that person, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean if those who are taking MK to, they will necessarily win. No, they will not. And within our law of jurisprudence, you can appeal your case and all that. But yes, we know we are closer. So thus far, those who are taking MK, they are right. They're exercising. Our constitution allows that. MK to have formed thus far to be a party there. But for me to know, nobody knows intimately the merits of the case. I would like to believe MK, they can defend themselves, even those who are taking MK. So we'll see what none of us can speak authoritatively to say MK is wrong or right. Let the law take its course. But I'm just saying, for them to have gone thus far to have used all this money, because you can see a lot of money has been used. Number two, coming to the bank that the accounts have been closed and all that, right? I also just read it, right? Remember, I always say anything about media reporting and all that, some of it is true, some of it is half-truths, some of it is messages of agent provocateurs. So we do not know if there's substance in that, because up to now, I haven't had any reaction from MK or from Utata Jacob Zuma to say this is what happened and all that. It might have happened, it might not have happened. I don't know what it is. But I know our banks, they've closed other people's accounts, notable people's accounts. And that type of thing.
Including his son as
well.
Yes,
right. That's why a new government that comes in, it must nationalize the Reserve Bank. It must nationalize all the commercial banks. It must nationalize all the public utilities. And by nationalizing, we're just saying we're not daft to say we cannot bring in minority shareholding and expertise. No. But what we must say, everything must belong to the people of South Africa, not just the Motsepe family. Not just the Ramaphosa family, not just the Elvis family, not just the Malusi Molef family. No, we cannot have a situation where our people are in endemic poverty, because poverty does take away your dignity. We cannot allow that. And we have leaders who are billionaires. No, Mina, that culture must go. We want a culture. If we do have billionaires, there must be free education. There must be free health care. There must be a basic income grant of at least 5,000 for every South African. Not that they'll be given. We'll find ideas. Before you get that income grant, you must do some type of community service, so that people have a decent basic life. I mean, you have CEOs in this country. It's a fact. You can Google it. Who earn a total package of 120 million rands a year. I don't care how smart you are. And we've been led by architects of apartheid who've murdered our forefathers, and we still allow this. And I'm saying this to the youth. You allow this type of thing, and you call yourself educated. Then you are miseducated if that type of thing doesn't make you stand up and fight. And you have all these CEOs throwing. You have people working here in South Africa, taking home 400, 500,000 every month, and we can't pay for NEPSAs. No, man. And if you, the youth, keep quiet about that and you're cool about that and you say, dog, this is cool, then you get what you deserve. You really get what you deserve. But if you refuse, you show sharper, superior intellect, you are prepared to sacrifice, you are consistent, not once in 3 months, daily, you change the whole culture of South Africa, you change the whole intellectual culture of Africa and say, we will not put leaders who are puppets, who talk Pan-Africanism on one hand, on the other hand, they sell other African leaders, and they can't stop the killings that are happening in the DRC, in Sudan. Sudan. Intellectuals, young people, you should be knowing what's happening in Sudan, because it does impact us.
If a lot of parties that, there's a lot of, each and every time when we have elections, we find that there's a lot of political parties that are participating, or rather newly formed. Now we have Arise SA, Rise Mzansi, what is it? Is it Arise Mzansi or
Yeah,
Arise?
mhm,
Yeah, Arise Mzansi and the other political parties. However, most of them don't make it to parliament, right? And I want to ask the question of, because with the MK party, yes, it's a new political party, but the face behind the party already almost have the numbers, people that are supporting him,
That
and not only to say that it's divided votes from the ANC, but there's a lot of people that hated Jacob Zuma when he was a president, only to figure out later, that they like this person. Maybe they figured new information about him. Maybe they figured out a lot of information. Maybe it was propaganda, stuff like that. Whatever they believe. But then he had gained more followers even after he was a president. So it's almost like he's guaranteed to get into parliament if, of course, this case in court, they win it. What is your say about the MK? Do you think it's going to get to parliament?
I think MK is at about 9.6 million. That's
Members?
Yes, members.
Standing?
Yeah, 9.6 million.
40 million people registered?
9.6 million.
I mean,
and they've got a membership registered more than, it's about 1.8 million. More, and ANC doesn't even have 1 million. And
how many people do we have that registered to vote right now?
28 million, I think.
And we've got 9 million?
9.6 million.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the elections
That's interesting.
if the elections take place, there's definitely going to be a sizable dent on the ANC. I want to give you my analysis. You
Yes.
asking me, forget about, for me, hating Zuma, liking Zuma and all that. My main thing about South African politics is the dignity of the black body. How do we get dignity of the black body? Is to get our land back, nationalize it. Forget liking Thabo Mbeki. No. So that historic revolution has not been achieved yet. To get our land back, which 72% of it is owned by multinational corporations. Our land, even if you don't farm it, that land you can use it as security in doing so many other things. It must come under the state, the people. And the youth must be vigilant and make sure it's under, right? Number one. Number two, the Reserve Bank. Because money is about day-to-day lives. Personally, I don't buy this nonsense that the Reserve Bank must remain independent.
Yeah.
There is nothing like that independent, because they want to push policies that benefit the rich.
Yeah.
And they do not benefit the black body, so that the black body is highly educated in every facet. Number two, commercial banks. Right. Right now, if you look at all these banks, they only primarily, dominantly benefit white people. Right. That's why we need a state bank. State bank, when you say state, you mean the people.
Yeah.
And to make sure that it's a state bank, not only in name, Africa's youth, South African youth, they must be at every decision-making point of the processes of policy making, processes of policy implementation, processes of policy evaluation and monitoring. Freedom is not an easy thing. You must be there at all times. Wherever there's Mangunali Zaka, your eyes must be there. They mustn't tell you comrades will come to you. That time is gone, youth. That time is gone. I'm talking to the youth of all the world. That time is gone. The youth must sit at the Reserve Bank. If they are going to play you and say, no, you are not supposed to sit there, and you accept it, because it's a game of minds, of ideas, and you accept it and you become weak, then you are played. The youth must have a representative body with civil society, trade unions, etc., to sit at the Reserve Bank. You must know what is happening to each and every cent of yours. The youth, you must be there at the Treasury, Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
All decision makings. This is a century where you must be there. The old and the young, you must put your powers together. Gone are those times where they tell you, we will come back to you. If you're going to agree to that type of nonsense, I'm telling you, if you're going to agree to that type of nonsense, then you are finished as the youth.
Wow.
Yeah. So you must be there. The land, commercial banks, public utilities, reserve banks, everything must be nationalized.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Not whether some people love Jacob Zuma. No. The real revolution is getting our land back. Because without land, there's no Elvis.
So
Without land, there's no black people.
So basically, you're saying they stand a chance to be in parliament.
Who?
The MK.
Of course, they will be in parliament if they don't stop them through the court and all that.
Yeah.
And what you see again, remember I was telling you about neocolonialism.
Yes.
We must be very, very careful. South Africa is not an exception. Certain forces, you've already had secession about Western Cape.
I was about to come to Cape
about Western
independence.
Cape.
Yeah.
They can even trigger through this MK thing and many other things that are happening. They can even trigger a civil war.
Yeah, man.
Because if they can push a proxy war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Remember what happened to black people when they were living in Ukraine who were studying there? Remember the statements when we were in trains as black people, they pushed us out and they put in white people. Have you forgotten that? Do you remember what was happening?
It was on the news.
It was on the news. When they said, how could people with blue eyes and blonde hair be refugees? Because the black body has become synonymous with being a refugee, with being poverty-stricken. They reminded black people, even those who think they are rich, that when they tried to get into Poland, they were first giving first preference to white people. I'm talking about the white superstructure. I'm not talking about white people as individuals. Yes, you can have a white person there who's good, who will even fight in your struggle like Joe Slovo and all that. But I'm talking about a structure, an intergenerational structure that they have created of white supremacy. So we have to get our land back. That is the crux of the matter for the youth. And that problem, they are going around it, our governments. And they've been bribed with monies. And they will talk all revolutionary language that, these things take time. Yes, they take time because they live in Sandton now. They live in Houghton now. They live in gated communities now. They've got generators. Their children, they go to private schools. Their children come to universities driving the latest Macs. So they will tell you to be patient. But they were not patient themselves. So we have a blueprint, Thomas Sankara blueprint.
The Western Cape guys, the Western Cape independence guys will not be happy to hear such conversations because, especially on land, what is your view with Western Cape? Some are saying new minerals are being discovered in the Western Cape. That's why they want to border the entire thing. So, you and I, when we were on the call preparing for this a couple of days ago, we also spoke about the KZN, and some of the minerals that are being discovered around the country. What is your view? And just to wrap up the elections part, so that we can wrap up with the last subject. What is your view about Cape independence and white-only communities that are existing not only in South Africa but in the entire continent, where certain white group of people are saying, yeah, this is our area, we don't want anyone. There's Orania right now. I mean, I just went through some of the podcast episodes where some of the founders of Orania were speaking about how the entire thing was founded. What is your view on that?
The American empire, which leads NATO, which leads the Western Hemisphere, is a global empire, meaning that they almost control most of, strategically, all the minerals resources across the world. And given the competition for China, they are not happy. I'm giving you my analysis. They are not happy with the influence of China and Russia
in
South Africa.
In South
Africa, yes.
Wow.
In South Africa. Yeah, we've had military maneuvers with the Chinese, with the Americans themselves, and with the Russians. And we've been doing it with the Americans in Western Cape and other areas here. But when we started doing it with the Russians and with the Chinese, they are not happy. Why you?
It's a problem.
Yeah, why you bring? No, but it's our democratic right. We are a member of United Nations. We call whoever we want.
Sure.
So don't tell us what to do.
And these are our guys in BRICS as well.
But you see, them being a global empire. Remember, I told them it's not about it's about dominance.
Yeah.
Right. They'd rather Cape, besides the minerals that allegedly have been discovered and all that, it's a coastal place. It gives them. It's a strategic place.
Harbors.
Yeah, harbors and all that. Yeah. So for me, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and why? So the idea, it's an immediate strategy, mid-term strategy, long-term strategy. So already people you see, we're already talking that there's a possible Western Cape secession, but I don't see it happening myself. But we mustn't sit on our laurels. This again to Africa's youth, right? Because neocolonialism, white supremacy, global white supremacy, its operations institutionally led by organizations like the IMF, World Bank, the American NATO, and all that, it works every time on divide and rule. That's why today you see there's a war in Syria that's not ending. That's why there's a war that's not ending in Libya. The more you're divided, the more they can easily collect oil, the more they can easily do things. You understand? And also when there's wars like what's happening in the TRC and all, children, disappear. Human trafficking happens. Human trafficking happens for many reasons. When there's destabilizers, there's no records are kept and all that. There's organ trafficking. People are captured. They cut them up. They sell all this, and they find their way to the West. A whole lot of things happen when there's war. War, it's an art of economics. So they've perfected it. So when South Africa can be touched, South Africa can be destabilized. If Libya could be destabilized, if a white country like Ukraine can be destabilized, who the hell do we think we are as South Africans? You think we can't be touched? We can find ourselves being refugees back to Swaziland, back to Zimbabwe, back to Tanzania. It's very possible.
Do you foresee a possible civil war
Anything is possible.
in South Africa?
It's very possible. Remember what I said? I said there could be engineering. You asked me, mentioning MK and KZN and all that, right? So, for instance, here I'm just giving you my intelligent analysis. With what's happening with Jacob Zuma and all that, there might be many options, but one of the options, if you are an intelligence analyst, what you must not overlook is that sometimes you could be pushing people to be tribalistic when they don't want to be tribalistic. Because some people, when they analyze whatever is happening within the real Zulu nation, it could be any nation, but I'm just since you mentioned KZN.
I hear you.
Yes. You could be looking at it as a very powerful nation and find ways to destroy it. Do you understand? You mentioned minerals. So, for instance, if there's minerals, I don't know if they found minerals, but I've heard that there's allegedly minerals in the KZN in Western Cape. So if there's minerals, whoever is going to take over those minerals, whether it's government or whoever, they have to go against the Ngonyama Trust. Remember the Ngonyama Trust?
Yeah, it's been on the news recently.
Yes. So all those things can lead to a civil war. So for instance, if the Zulu people feel they are under threat, they can also take, I'm not saying that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at options. They can take that type of posture. Anyone can do that type of posture. Just like I'll give you another form of tribalism that is happening globally. You tell me the name of the president who's going across America saying, if you vote me back, I'll make America the greatest nation again, making America great again. Can you tell me which president says that? And if that is not tribalism, what is it? Let's make America, the American tribe, great again.
Yeah.
Who is it? Give me the name. What's his name?
It's Trump.
Oh, okay, all right. There
I
you
know.
go.
I used to listen to this guy's a lot of his speeches when I was in high school.
Right. Yeah.
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 You know, because we were in high school. I mean, you
So
don't.
tribalism is not just in Africa.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That thing that is happening in Ukraine. Yeah, it's tribalism. It's how you want to interpret it. That's the beauty.
So it can still happen in Africa.
Of course, South Africa can be. Who knows? Maybe the neo-colonial powers are pushing South Africa into a civil war. It's very possible. Remember what happened in July when they closed that road from Durban, when Zuma was arrested, allegedly arrested. You saw what happened. So if that thing had gotten out of hand, let's say
almost.
Let's say soldiers went into KZN, because soldiers being soldiers, and they ended up killing 5,000 Zulus, children, and all that.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe the leadership would have been able to control it and say no, but how about if they fail to control it? Because in any nation, whether Pedi, Zulu, Sotho, Tswana, Kikuyu, there's also hardliners. There's hardcores. will say will not stand for this nonsense. That's what you must always know. Any nation has got hardliners who would rather die, like the kamikaze of Japan. They would rather die than to have that done to us. So we must be careful about that.
Yeah.
Maybe certain people are not happy with the type of power that comes from the KZ province in terms of numbers, etc., and all that. You know, maybe certain people are out to destroy it. But these are all my thinkings. What I'm trying to say to you, you do not know how the so-called Zulu strategists think about it. As much as they might want to be all South Africans, but maybe certain things that are being done, the way they these people are coming against us.
Yeah.
So, you know, we better prepare. My hlome. We will not just sit and, you know what I mean?
And watch slaughtering our people. Yeah.
But, Mina, I'm for Pan-Africanism. Africans must unite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unity in diversity, we must go. Because if we fight against each other, that's what the neo-colonials want. Yeah. Because we give them much power.
And somehow I believe that tribalism or tribal identity is a limited identity.
It is limited, definitely.
It's important just to know your forefathers, to know your roots, your culture in that tribe.
Yes.
But it's also important for you to know that you are a human being, and you are in this context we'll say you are African, and to be African, it means that there's a lot of tribes, but then even when there's a lot of tribes like that, there's still a unified identity.
Elvis, I already demonstrated to you.
Which puts you together as a collective.
I demonstrated to you how we are owned.
Yeah.
The whole of Africa is owned. There's not one tribe who can undo the power of the neo-colonials.
Yeah.
Structurally, financially,
otherwise
militarily. So you can be a proud Zulu all you want. You can be a proud Mpedi all you want. Lesotho all you want. You are not going to untangle yourself from this web that has been built over 500 years.
Oh, wow.
Africans must come together. It's urgent. And I'm talking to all the global youth of Africa. We'll need even support from the diaspora.
Yeah.
I must say, I like the work that Dr. Arkana Chiombori is doing.
Yeah.
A lot on TikTok, and Dr. Uma Johnson. Yeah. They're trying to
Ifatunde.
Ifatunde. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Very, very important work.
Yeah.
Critical. So I don't care. You can be a proud Mpedi, you like a proud Zulu, but if we do not have our African unity, we are going to remain as slaves. So the youth must see beyond the horizon so that African unity globally, continentally comes to pass. We must be united. We must be united. Noma ganjani, noma bangatini. We must unite as Africans.
Let's wrap it up like this. I wanted to touch on the African Union and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area project. Just to say, what is your understanding with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area project and the role of the African Union in, fast tracking that? And also the other thing is there's a lot of players that are coming to actually support, this initiative. But I remember we were at UJ at some point attending some event, and this discussion unfolded. And I asked the question to one of the guest speakers that how do we safeguard this Africa Continental Free Trade Area? Because the other problem that we have in Africa is that we launch projects and nice projects, but then they get hijacked. As I was reading the African Union at 20 book, there's a chapter, I think it's chapter 10, where it speaks about some policies, right? And you can see these are well-crafted policies. And kudos to Primrose Bimba, who's one of the authors of that chapter. But then these projects, they can get hijacked by the West, by everyone who is looking to actually benefit in this project. And then at the end of the day, we have this Africa Continental Free Trade Area project that is branded Africa, but it's not actually a representative of Africa. How do we safeguard that? And what is the role of the African Union in all of this?
I'll comment on the two, on the African Union and the African Free Continental Free Trade Area, which is a flagship program of the African Union. First and foremost, the African Union transitioned from the Organization of African Union to become the African Union in order to be abreast or to be strategically disposed.
Yeah. And when was this? It was 2002, ne?
2002, yes.
Yes.
To the unfolding dynamics that are happening geopolitically that are impacting Africa.
Yeah.
But let me quickly say the African Union is an intergovernmental organization. It's an intergovernmental organization. And within its articles of the Constitutive Act, if I'm not wrong, Article 3B, it still says we will retain the sovereignty of each and every country. Non-interference in the sovereignty of each and every country. Hence, it is an intergovernmental organization. Only except there's Article 4H where it says in terms of war crimes, humanitarian factors that disturb the peace of the world, can the African Union Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body, can take a decision to go and stop that government if it's massacring people and all that. But essentially, it's an intergovernmental body. So, as until it remains an intergovernmental body and still recognizes the sovereignty of each and every country and does not graduate to become a confederacy of states or a federal state or a unitary state, whichever way, in other words, a United States of Africa, right? So that the laws that are passed within the one Parliament of Africa, they have legal tender, those laws, they have legal tender in all the jurisdictions of Africa. So, for instance, you were asking me,
Irregardless of sovereignty for each country.
For instance, our constitution in South Africa,
Yes.
has legal tender across all South Africans in Africa.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you murder me, the law will take its course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Whether you murder me in Mpumalanga or KZN or wherever, do you understand? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like right now, that's why I explained first, intergovernmental, each country still retains its sovereignty. They can sign, okay, they agree with this protocol, but not ratify. And they might even refuse to attend your meeting of the African Continental Free Trade Area. They are still a sovereign state. They don't have to attend. And these are some of the things that takes away power from some of the projects that happen.
Yeah.
Number one, there's no political will. That's what we mean by political will. Some of the leaders are not just interested. They just do it just as a show of public politics.
They are there to mark the register.
Yeah, but it's public diplomacy.
Yeah.
They want to be seen to be doing something.
But they're not actually doing
anything. But they're not interested.
And then countries like Morocco that are not part of...
No, it came back. It's now part of the African Union.
It's now part of the African Union.
It's now part of the African Union.
Yeah.
Right. So, coming back to the African Continental Free Trade Area, essentially, yes, it went into traction in January 2021. It started working, but it's still thousands of miles away. Number one, remember I told you how we are dominated by multinational corporations.
Yeah.
Right. Number two, we are very donor dependent. We do not have our budgets. More than half of Africa's countries, their yearly budgets, their gross domestic product, their yearly budgets are supported by foreign funding. So when you are supported, the one who pays the piper calls the tune. The one who pays the piper calls the tune. So we say we are independent, but we are not independent. So this is what happened in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali when they took out that president. Right? Because that president was serving the interests of France. And the military said, no more.
We are tired.
We want things that serve us.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you, more than 50% of Africans' budget, their supplementary budgets, comes from Western countries. They cannot survive on their own. I can name some of the countries if you want me to name them. Right. They do get supplementary budgets. Lesotho for one. Right. Malawi for one. Right. Uganda. I don't know if they stopped because Museveni put across a bill against gays and LGBT and all that. You know, the Americans lifted an LGBT flag in what you call, and Museveni said, do whatever you like. Right now in Ghana, they've passed a bill It just has to be signed.
And
Anti-gay, and I'm just
Sure.
giving examples to what's
Yes.
happening. So these are all people, and they say, IMF and World Bank have said if Ghana signs that bill to become law, they could lose their budget support of about 3.8 billion.
Yeah, I saw that.
Do you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So I am saying, and we think we own Africa. We do not own Africa. That's why the youth who are educated, and they must keep on educating themselves. How colonialism is done now, it's much sinister, it's much hidden, but it's effective. That's why you are educated. You must be able to see its effect. And 200 years from now, it's going to be worse, right? So that's why you have to take action right now. So in terms of Africa, Africa doesn't have even its own budget. Most of Africa's economy, it's not a beneficiated economy of value chains whereby we process our own resources and we graduate. That's what I mean by benefit. We graduate our own and we sell them as end products. We don't. The way we are structured and we are linked into the West is to sell raw resources to the West and to China, and they sell it back to us as complete. So again, our own resources, they graduate it, they repackage it and sell it back to us and catch us up in dependency, financial dependency, and we cannot come out of that treadmill, that hamster treadmill.
Yeah.
So it's critically, we are totally enslaved. I repeat, for Africa's youth and those clowns who are ruling us here in Africa, some of them, you are in it for yourselves. Not when our children don't have a free education, no basic free income, but all you leaders who are living this lifestyle. Mina, I'm totally against it, and I want to register it very forcefully.
Yeah. Quickly, for somebody who has no idea of what is Africa Continental Free Trade Area project about?
Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area. They came together as African. It was ratified, right? They now have an office in Ghana that runs it. Basically, listen to the name again, African Continental Free Trade Area. So the whole idea is to harmonize the trading within Africa, to make it one. We are going towards that. So the first things first is to bring down or to eradicate tariffs. Tariffs are forms of taxes amongst each country in Africa.
As they are trading.
Yes. So there's tariffs and there's non-tariff barriers. Now, what do we mean by non-tariff barriers? For instance, yes, South Africa, we know how good we are. We need your goods, but we'll put quotas from South Africa. We do not need more than 300 tons of gold. I'm exaggerating, of gold coming from South Africa. We just need up to 300 tons. Anything more than that, we do not need. Those are quotas. It's a certain amount.
Yeah.
And why countries do that is to protect their own industry. In Zambia for that. So they have quotas. So when you have an African Continental Free Trade Area, it's now a legal entity across the whole of Africa. They all bought into it. But it will take years. They have to reduce tariffs so that the tariffs are more of on the same level. And to begin now to also harmonize their economic planning, right? And also to harmonize their rules of origin. For instance, the goods that are sold in Africa in terms of rules of origin, they must not be from third-party countries. They must originate from Africa because there will be preferential trade agreements within Africans. So, for instance, I can manufacture my bicycle here in South Africa. It can cross all the borders here and without paying tax, because all the parts are from here in South Africa. But if some of the parts are from Japan and I got it from Germany and we discover that, right, then it means those parts, they have to pay a tax as they cross.
Oh, wow. That's I didn't even understand it to that extent.
Yes, that's what they mean by rules of origin. Yes. So it's like a passport. So if all your products, everything is from Africa, it's like a visa. You pass, it's visa free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But if you say, when in South Africa you've manufactured a car, right? South Africa, we've manufactured. Okay, we sit as representatives, ministerial represent the technical committees of African Free Trade Area. We look at those parts, but hey, man. 30% of those parts, they're not South African parts, these ones. They are not indigenous.
Yeah.
They're not indigenous to
So
the
they
whole
are
of
liable
Africa.
to tax.
To the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
We don't care. They don't necessarily to be all South African. Some of the parts could be from Morocco, from Tunisia, from Gabon. It's okay. You do not pay tax. But some of the parts, hey, man, they're from United States of America.
Yeah.
You have to pay tax.
Remember, I asked you a question about how we can safeguard
Yeah.
the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What happens when these Japanese companies, these European companies come and set up plants in the African continent and produce? Like right now, obviously we don't produce the cars, but then we assemble them.
Yeah,
right?
we assemble them.
Yeah. Then they can say, you know what, it's fine. We can go and produce in Africa. We can move our headquarters to Africa. Then will that still be considered as so for instance, if I'm producing a bicycle and then a Japanese company comes and say, we're going to produce, the wheels of the bicycle. We're going to create this company that produces that, but it's an African company. It's still owned by Japanese whatsoever, but everything is being produced in Africa.
That's why. Then that's why we have.
What is the law around that?
Yeah, that's why we have African Union, and that's why we have African Union Continental Free Trade Area. So they've got technical groups. They've got what they call special committees of finance and economics and etc. So if Japan wants to do that, they are not yet strong right now.
Yeah.
But essentially, theoretically, if Japan wants to come and open up a plant and all that,
Sure.
they speak to a body that represents the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, and we see where the benefits are from Africa as a group, not individual country.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I see the guys want to wrap up right now. I wanted us to touch on Muammar Gaddafi as well as Krisani, but hopefully next time when you are on the show, and I'm hoping you're gonna honor the invite for the second time when we have to also expand on these issues, because I realize that there's a lot that we can actually dive deep into. If you have watched this episode up until this time, thank you so much. I'd love to share with you more episodes as they're coming. This is episode 1, Break It Down, with Elvis Molefi Molf. And I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel, share this content with other people that, would love to hear about what we are discussing here. I'm inviting human beings that are passionate about breaking down some of the conversations surrounding the topics that I've mentioned in the beginning of this episode. I won't do it again. You will see it in the next episode. But if you love this, thumbs up. And also, let's just hear what do you think in the comment section. What do you have to say? Otherwise, thank you so much. I would love to take this time to also thank you, Mr. Malusi, Dr. Malusi Molf, as well as the team that is assisting us here at M Studio to actually make this possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Dr. Malusi Molf. I appreciate this to the people who had helped steer this to Elvis. A brilliant presentation. Thank you very much. And to viewers and listeners, I want to say to progressive humanity, black or white, progressive humanity globally, and to Africa's youth globally, in Africa and continentally, always critique everything you learn at schools, universities, and everything, because most of it is from the ruling class. They want to keep you down there. Critique everything you learn, and be very, very revolutionary. Be very, very aggressive in terms of demanding transparency and accountability. Don't be sweet-talked. That age is gone. They will sweet-talk you. They will try all types of tricks. So the borders in Africa must go like yesterday. One currency, one reserve bank, one people. South Africans, Malawians, Egyptians explore Africa, move across borders, take off all those visa fees, and that will also make our intelligence in Africa to be much better, our police in Africa to be much better, our soldiers in Africa to be much better, but our people must move. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And that's how we wrap it up. This is Break It Down, episode 1. My name is Elvis Molefi Molf. Cheers. See you on the next one.